Hey everybody, welcome back. It's later in the day, and as promised, we're gonna check out the new mountain grade that we just laid in. Well, I mean, it's been laid in for a few hours now and it's drying, but anyway, let's get to it. All right, so here it is. And we cut our wedges earlier, so out on the big flat trailer out there, the deck over, we had these wedges of foam and cut them out back there, and then I segmented them. So you're seeing the segments here. They're about 3 inches wide each, and then I numbered some of them to help identifying them when I was gluing them into place. But there they are. So as you can see, we've got the whole idea that I've been kind of, teasing here is the main line is on the outside, and it's lower. It's a less grade. It's a 2% grade, and then we have the line that goes up to the lumber yard and future mining areas, which is a much more steeper grade. I have no idea what it is, but it's pretty steep. And you'll notice that there's a big step there. That's because that long straight section is yet to be glued down. And that's because I don't know exactly where it's going to end up on the outside. Look at that zip tie hanging down there. That zip tie was holding the mountain up in midair off of one of these struts. So, yep. Got it in there, got it glued in. And let's have a tour here, shall we? So, over yonder, down there, is where we're going to move next. I just want to talk briefly about this real quick before we get there. So you notice this gap in the center here. And in the first video, the part one of this that's where I was talking about putting the mirror of the foam wedge. So, if you were to take a straight line, you saw it in the other video. There's another half of this. In fact, all those halves are down here. They're right here. So you can see here, that big one's not really a good example. This one. So that looks like that's the first half of the lumber line going up. So basically, that's going to go in this gap between the two. And then it's going to stick up flat like this, but then I'm going to come through with a hot wire and shave it down all the way. And then up here, we're going to build up maybe a little bit of foam, or probably what I'll do is just lay in the wire mesh. Because you see the way they built this mountain, I don't know if you can see it in there, they got wire mesh. In fact, there it is. That's like screen door material. That like the wire mesh that goes in a screen door. And then they put plaster on top of it. So this mountain actually came from a local hobby shop back in the day. Like 20 years ago, they went out of business, and I've had it ever since. And, I've tried different versions of the mountain over the years. Back when these two tables in the bottom here, this actual table, and then, all that down there. These were actually two separate tables, side by side. Then I joined them together once we found this new home for everything in the shipping container. So the mountain's kind of been through some revisions, and it was originally built to fit in the front window of a hobby shop in South Utica, New York. Village Hobbies is where it came from. They went out of business a while back, and we acquired the layout from them. And this is the mountain that they built, and it's a nice mountain. And I'm glad that we can finally, do it justice, so to speak. I'm the new owner, and I want to make it so that it looks nice. So that's what we're doing here. So, these two lines, they come up and around the mountain, and they were cut into the mountain. So we're going to have, 45-degree slope going up here. So we have to fill in all this area here. We'll probably use the wire mesh and plaster cloth. This gap here, we're going to fill in with foam and shape it. This outer area along the main line here, we're going to add foam identical to this. Because remember, I got 2 for 1 special when we cut these out of the boards out on the trailer. So that one is going to go right alongside this. and then it's going to get shaved downward at a 45-degree slope. And then any area here that's left over to the edge of the table is going to be the river. So it's like the river is going to pop out where those bridges are, way down there. So where those all that bridge stuff is going on over there, that's where the river is going to come across the table. Then it's going to kind of disappear, but then it's going to reemerge over here just at the edge of the track. So we're going to carve this foam away. We're going to detail it. Put rock and riverbed in there, and then put some kind of barrier up here, and then pour epoxy. So it's like you're in the river when you're standing here looking in. And then that's going to go to wherever it ends. Probably I think this spot right here is 2 inches. So that's probably where the foam is going to come back in somewhere through here. And then up in this area, we're going to have a tunnel portal here and a tunnel portal here. I don't know if they're going to be actual like man-made portals or if they're just going to be holes blasted in the rock. Because the rock job on the front of this mountain kind of gives me the impression that this is a pretty sturdy mountain. So maybe we could, get away with just blowing holes right in the rock and that's our tunnel portal, so to speak. And then, of course, we're going to dress in this corner. The whole thing up here is going to, be filled in. This big monster gap here is going to be filled in, so it's going to look the way it's supposed to. There's going to be an access hatch built in so that you can get on a ladder in this corner and reach in there if you had to clear a derailment. I've got several of these grabby things. So, if we had to get in there and clear anything out, we could. But, we're just going to say we're not going to have to do that because I'm going to build everything perfect so that there's no issues. And the only way that something's going to derail in there is that if some Yahoo comes along and they don't know how to handle a train and they just, hit the gas and rip it in half or something. All right. So now we're looking at the front side of the mountain. And again, we're coming around. I've got all these pieces labeled so I know where they go. When we get down into this area where, there's possibly some confusion between what pieces, because none of these are glued down yet. These are just in place right now to kind of monkey around with and sort of prototype stuff. So that's why I have the lumber line labeled L28, L29, etc. And the main line is like M13, M14, so on and so forth. So I talked in a previous video about this little portal here being removable. So in the hobby shop, you could get in there because the track went right under this mountain. Like there was a tunnel portal right through here, I believe, or maybe it was over here. I don't know. But, they made this so that it was removable. So you can see that they used the wire mesh material with some plaster cloth over it. And then I believe that's expanding foam insulation. And it looks like there's maybe some traces of aluminum foil on there. Maybe that's how they kept the foam from sticking to the mountain. And I want to say, they told me back in the day how they made these. And if you look real close, I mean, that's pretty solid. That's just, as you saw, that's one like big chunk of expanding foam insulation. If you look real close, you can kind of see that these are the Woodland Scenic's latex rubber rock molds. And the method that they used, if I remember correctly, was they would spray the mold with vegetable oil or some other kind of release agent, and then start to spray the foam into the mold itself, and then take the mold and go right onto the mountain itself. And then the foam would expand outward, and fill all the cavities in the mold. I don't know if they had to massage the mold to kind of burp it to, get any gas bubbles out of there. But, all these rocks you see here are foam. Like this whole mountain, it's pretty darn light. So the only, real plaster that's there is just the shell that everything is stuck to. And then the inside is all foam and everything. I mean, it's a really nifty way that they built this. So that's kind of the method that I'm going to be, trying out here again down the road, and try to replicate what they did so that there's continuity throughout the scene. All right, we gotta, move over, get up a little higher to talk about this, because I gotta make a confession here shortly. Well, probably right now. So, remember earlier when I said that I had measured out the lumber grade to exactly like 7.75 inches, like 7 3/4. And I was like, it's 7 3/4 exact. Ha! Well, I done goofed. And I was wrong. And here's why. Because if we take our friend the T-square here, acquired at Hobby Lobby, and Hobby Lobby has nothing to do with this, but I'm just saying that, this particular T-square I got there, you'll notice that the rail head, or basically the ties, are pretty much at 8 inches. And if you want the rail to float evenly from your road bed right onto those ties, you have to account for 1/4 inch of cork road bed. So that would put you at 7.75, which, if you're looking at the left side of the ruler, I mean, that's what it looks like, right? I mean, you got eyeballs the same as I do, but maybe your brain functions a little differently than mine, because I forgot to account for the fact that the way they build these stupid T-square rulers, the inside edge here on the left starts at 0, but it's already an inch up off the surface because of this other little, part that goes to the left there. So in reality, that was 8 3/4. Ugh. That thud you heard was my head hitting the table. In shame. Shame! So, I need to, add a piece of foam here. So, what I done did is just kind of took the old yardstick here and just kind of laid it flat enough on the grade and kind of extrapolated a line to where it needs to be. So basically, that mark on the left there is where the foam needs to end in order to get the elevation correct to go into the bridge. So, yeah. So I need to cut a piece of foam. Basically, I mean, that says 35 inches, but I might be a little judicious and go 36. That way I have a little bit of flat before I transition right onto the bridge. Just to help things out. And the other thing is, so now this line here is going to have to be probably the edge of the mountain. So we need to extend the whole darn mountain way over there. Or, at least most of it. I may, now that I think of it, we may, grade this up and then actually flatten it out, like they cut the side of the mountain or blasted it off, and then our tunnel portal is still back in this area. Because the original idea I had was the tunnel portal was going to be somewheres around where you see the end of the foam there. So I'm thinking that we're still, because we still have to gain elevation. We're still on a grade all the way up to the bridge, except for an inch or two behind, back from it. So I may, bring the mountain, the mountain proper, out to here, halfway-ish, and then just, cut it, give it a haircut all the way out, and then, just have the slope from there. And then, the other benefit of that is that allows us to, because you see that other piece of foam right there, that's our main line. That's this guy right here that goes around, and then it pops out here. if we end the mountain here, that still gives us the ability to reach over and down and service anything on the backside there, so it's not completely out of reach. And then, you know, that will then continue out, and maybe maybe what we'll do with that one is just have its portal out here at the front edge of the rock face. And instead of actually encapsulating it in mountain, we'll just leave it open on top, because nobody's going to know. You know, I mean, what you will all know because I just told you. But like, let's say if you're like at this angle looking into the layout, this perspective, you're just going to see, you know, a flat rock shelf and then mountain with a portal for that lumber line, you know, somewhere's in this area. And then that whole like cut is going to hide the main on the other side. And then we'll just have the portal somewhere's in there. There's no need to cover that over. I mean, maybe if we wanted to, we could build like a false cover for whatever reason, just to kind of give the indication that terrain goes up into the back more. Maybe that's what we'll do. Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea. So then, yeah. So then what we'll do is we'll have like another, like, say the start of a gully or a ravine, like a V shape here. And they cut the lumber line kind of through, you know, through that a little bit, but it's like along the side of it. And then, yeah, that's what we'll do, I think. Yep. All right. All right. So now we pretty much know how the whole loop-de-loop around the mountain is going to go. And when we get to this point with it. So now we need to start thinking about, like, you know, the whole river thing. Because remember on the whiteboard, we had the river, and we still have this kind of slopey area here for the, you know, like just the trees and country and stuff like that. But now we have to focus on the river and the campsites near the river and how we're going to transition all of this in. So we've got our two lines coming down, and at some point they need to join up because they're going to, you know, go through a switch. Now I don't know if I want to have a double track bridge and have both lines go across and then have the switch over there, or if I want to have a single track and then raise this whole area up. So let me pitch this idea real quick. So let's say we get rid of all these grades in this area here and just raise this whole area up and carve the river channel out of the side of it a little bit more. And then obviously this 1-inch thick foam will extend right to that mark right there. And that's where it's 1 inch thick on this. I already measured it. So we'd have to build a custom piece to fill this all in, but it would look like one big giant fill or a, what do they call that? A flood bench per se, maybe. It would kind of be like a flood bench, you know, for like the 10 million year flood. And then this bridge at that point, because the track is higher, the bridge gets a little bump as well. So now there's a little bit more gap under it. And of course I'm going to, you know, cut out the river channel and, you know, put rocks and everything in there. But then, you know, the bridge is up a little bit higher. It looks a little bit better. And I think that's what I want to do, actually, because then, you know, the track and all the roadbed will be up high, like way high, and probably look a little bit more normal. And then we'll have our campsites along the river, you know, with the road and the shops and everything over in that area. And then where that cardboard box is, that's where we're going to start our, I want to say the edge of the next mountain or the plateau or whatever that's right behind the town. And that's what I was saying in the first video, where I think I may, you know, because the main line's on the back, so it needs to jut out and under. And I've already tested it. You can fit a 22-inch radius S-curve underneath that 90-foot span. So, like, if we take this here bent and put it wherever, I'm just going to mock this up really quick. I'm not going to, like, you know, waste all your guys' time and just, come on, there. All right, it doesn't have to be perfect. But that space there, we can snake a 22-inch radius S-curve through there. So that allows us to bring the main line out and around this and then out front. And I want to have that go over a bridge, over the river and the roadway, and then go into the next plateau. And then the plan, let me see here. Do I have, I got the big fat Sharpie. Do I have a regular Sharpie? Is there a regular Sharpie in here? Yes, under my headlamp. So all my yammering, I can just diagram this out. Or do I want to, let's use the underneath, because I may need to actually mark stuff out on that other side for like actual production cutting. So there's the edge of the table. And let's say this is the river, road, and then the next plateau. And then town, the ground level main line. And then our viaduct is going to come through straight across. And let's extend that over a little bit more. And the idea is the elevated portion of the main line is going to come across and probably have some sort of tower or something here, hop across on a bridge. And then we're going to jut under, do one of them, just to get it on the other side there, and then have a little bit of visibility out front on this rock face. Then it's going to dive into a portal, and then they're going to run on, one on top of the other. So then the main line is going to be underneath the lumber line, but they're going to get real tight up close to the wall. That way I can push this plateau back in as much as possible, so that when it's time to have the lumber mill and the town and everything else over there, I can maximize the real estate in this area, to the end of the shelf here, all the way down. So I think that's how that's going to go. And then we're just going to have this single track main line. And, if we split out here, that becomes the lumber line. That becomes the, I should just call this the mountain line, because the idea train is just, thundering down the tracks right now. It's about to derail for reals. So this plateau that I'm talking about here, this elevated section that's going to be on their side of the valley, that's going to go up into the first logging camp, then around the side. And then I was thinking maybe I wanted to do something. Well, I'm now thinking I really am going to put yet a fourth shelf up here over the top of the yard. It's going to be a very narrow shelf. It won't be very deep. It'll only be like a foot at most. But it's going to be more logging, more coal mines, more everything, all the way down. And then I can't spin my spine 180 degrees, so I had to go back the other way. It's going to go all the way down, over the man door, and then come back. Maybe. And then if it comes back, it's going to go down and then into the plateau again, and then, kind of make an actual loop way up high. But that's way down the road. Like, that's bonus material, like bonus construction if we get to that point. Not even like this year or next year. It's whenever it happens. Because my priority this year is to get the heavy construction of all the shelving and everything around and back, to tie into the yard and everything else. Plus, we need to cut in a man door in that corner and then move the fan over to accommodate the man door. Plus, probably cut a portal in that wall to bring the wood furnace ducting into here, so that during the winter, if we have a work session in here, we can get it nice and toasty. So, yeah. So I think this is how this track plan is going to go here. So if the thing is, I've got this bridge, this brown bridge, and it's painted nice. It actually came from the same layout as the mountain, believe it or not. And it's just been here, there, and everywhere. It hasn't found a home yet, which I'm kind of bummed about. So that's why I got all excited thinking I could put it there. But then I got thinking, it's like that bridge is then detracting from the deck, the raised deck bridge, and then the other main line that's going to go through behind it. So it's kind of messing with the scene a little bit. So I may end up doing like a through girder bridge, something that's really low profile, and probably just this single track idea. And then we hit our switch on the other side, especially now that I'm kind of in love with this idea of raising this elevation up right here through this whole section. And then our switch has a nice big flat area to live and for all the track and everything to be stable. And then we just, transition into these grades as necessary. So I think that's what I'm going to end up doing here. So I've got that bigger piece of foam there that I'm going to probably tonight cut into this area here. I'll probably butt it right up to this edge, I think. I'm just going to ballpark it right to that edge and see what happens. And then just fill in this whole area. Is that wide enough to actually... Oh, we can't encapsulate, or we can't include the deck bridge in that, because the deck bridge needs to be at that height. If we put this foam in under that and jack that up another inch, that's going to be no bueno. So... yeah, so basically what I need to do here is lay this foam, lay that big sheet of foam in, and then cut like an elevated road bed all the way through so that it was obvious that it was a fill done for the railroad. And, our floodplain area is still below that. And that's where the campsites are going to be. I don't know why they put campsites near rivers like that. I mean, the rivers are nice and all until they're not. But, all right. So we're coming up on, almost half an hour here, 27 minutes. So that was today's railroading adventure. Oh, yeah. Got these cars full of gravel here. So that looks like some pretty heavy-duty riprap for HO scale. And basically what this is the county just came through and chip sealed the road out front. And, after it had been driven on for a few days, they came back with the broom truck and swept all that off to the side. And I got looking at it, I'm like, you know what? That actually looks like the right size of rock that you would actually have along a river and around bridge abutments for HO scale. So I may or may not be going out there with a broom and a 5-gallon bucket here at some point. I also could just go right up to the quarry and just get a ton of it, literally, with my little dump truck. But I think I can get enough off the road as it is. Yeah, so that's that. Oh yeah, I did get that other 8-foot section of shelf in there, and we are... where's the fingy? Oh, the phone does this cool picture-in-picture thing to help you kind of navigate. All right, so we are going to curve that in right there on the left side of the threaded rod there. Yeah, so that's that. Yeah, if you got any questions or comments or anything, feel free to leave them down below. And I hope you like what you're seeing here. And real quick, I just want to walk down to the end here. And right here, that's the shot. So when we get our fully loaded coal trains with the Y6Bs pounding away as they go up and around this curve, doing a heavy drag, and you're standing down here kind of looking up at it, that is the exact scene I was going for. And yeah, this is coming together nicely. So I hope you enjoyed this update, and I hope you enjoyed the progress of the build. And feel free to like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. And we'll catch you on the next one. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.